Well, everybody, 4 weeks of KBKL down, and we have 4 weeks of gossip and drama to talk about. And man, oh man, have I missed this. We are back to an OG style Pirate Pod pre-recorded solo job. This will not in any capacity be the norm. I'll be back with Ryan and hopefully a guest sometime in the near future. But between the NBA and NHL playoffs, my free time at the moment is non-existent. So our ability to get together does not exist. I woke up today, DMs filled with requests for a Pirate Pod, DMs filled with gossip, drama, opinions, other people's opinions on other people's opinions. And so I'm excited to get after it. So we'll get right into things. We got a lot to talk about. And ironically, there's probably a laugh to be had that my co-host Ryan's team is going to be a subject of a decent amount of this chat, but he'll have his chance to respond, and I'm sure he will enjoy his chance to do so sometime in the near future. So, first things first is, as I fire up this Pirate Pod, in the first solo Pirate Pod, and I believe like 2 years maybe, as I fire this up, I've been brought aware of something that has happened in the KVKL yesterday that is breaking news, and I don't think it's hit the public airwaves yet. And that is that Cougar, everyone has their opinions on Cougar. Some love him, some hate him. Some love him when he's not reffing their games. Some hate him when he's reffing their games. Cougar yesterday was assigned book duty on Free State versus Midnight Tokers. And I have verified, and it has been verified by multiple people, that Cougar made a grave mistake bookkeeping yesterday's game. Yesterday's game was reported and believed, and is reported on Cobb Valley Kickball website, to be a 10-8 extra innings win by the Free State Growlers. The reality is they actually won 9-8 in regulation. Cougar in the fifth inning, for whatever reason, did not attribute a run scored by Free State to them in the book. I am unaware at this time of the debate about that conversation in real time, but they did play out the game in extra innings. They still won the game, which I think I'm sure many people on the board will be very happy about, because I can only imagine the headache that would have caused had Free State lost that game in extra innings, despite having actually won it in regulation. I'm not sure the posting strategy and situation for that game. I am under the understanding that game was recorded. I do not believe that game was recorded by Marcus, however, and so I'm unaware of any potential posting schedule, and I think there are rumors of a maybe battery die job, GoPro die job on that game as well. So, for those of you that, rue the day when you see KBC Tropics reffing your games and knowing that Cougar is going to be involved in some way, shape, or form, and have your opinions on his reffing skills, I'll say that was a point to the public and a point to the haters, I'll say at least, and Cougar's reffing skill. I mean, obviously, like, everybody makes mistakes. It is what it is. And like I said, the situation thankfully resolved itself. But man, I mean, that is about as bad of a mistake as it can get. And to me, it's, again, not knowing all the details of, if this was brought to someone's attention in real time or not. But to me, I just don't get how this could have happened. It's just shocking to me that someone in somewhere didn't, on the other team or on Free State wouldn't have thought, hey, like, pretty sure we have, 9 runs. Or whatever point, the amount of runs they had scored, one more than the book had, for example. So it'll be interesting to see what the fallout is from that. The good news is, like I said, for Free State, they won the game. So the situation has been resolved. And I'll say this, I believe I played KBC Tropics on July 13th, and I was already going to be head ref, but at least now I have the evidence to tell Cougar why he is not head reffing that kickball game. So, moving on to the things people actually really want to hear about. There's no better place to start than last night. Game of the week is for those who did not attend. I'm sure in some capacity you are unaware. Last night might have been the most dramatic game of the week in KVKL history, at least from what people have been telling me. And mind you, I've only been in the league going on, I think, 8 years, maybe 9, somewhere around there. But man, I think we had 2 on-field collisions. A no contact injury that's likely a torn ACL. We had some people, the young kids have termed this a crash out. I would argue we probably had a generational crash out on the field due to one of the collisions. We had a player who was self-suspended by his team, somehow get an exemption to play in said game. Man, we had everything. We had a team who, many people probably would have picked to win the game, score one run. And we had a team that, last season I think only won 3 games, go out and beat the shit out of the other team. So a lot to talk about there, so let's dive in. First things first, I was working last night. I had to work the NBA Finals, which is why I was unfortunately not able to be with my team and not able to attend Game of the Week. One of the few really good matchups I think the board put together for Game of the Week, so I would have liked to be able to get out for it. But, yesterday's game, Topokes, Tropics, I was able to tune into the very end on Twitch. And I'll say, I don't listen to the Twitch broadcast really ever. And I'll say the Kenny Caberline and Derek Davis broadcast was definitely something special and unique. In many ways, in the first way, there's a lot of different ways we could laugh about the broadcast, but the first way I'll laugh about is that I tuned in right when, unfortunately, and now he is now posted in the Facebook group, so at least we know he's alive. Ian for Topokes, I believe, suffered a pretty brutal ACL tear in center field. Made a pretty good catch. And at least from what I've heard, he actually kind of had the same play earlier in the game and dropped it. So he had a really good catch to redeem himself from that earlier in the game drop. But I believe on his way down, his leg, knee kind of gave out. And I know at least from watching it, he stayed on that ground immediately. He never even tried to get up, which is obviously understandable given the extent of that potential injury. And the craziest part about said situation is with the limited knowledge I have of Topokes, and you're watching a GoPro feed that's not from Marcus's typical point of view down on the field. Well, you're basically at the top of the Hobbs Park stands. I'm not able to really tell who anyone is unless you know someone's exact hairstyle and skin tone quite well, or at least know what position they're playing. So in my head, I'm thinking Harvey's playing center field. He's typically who plays center field when I've watched Topokes previously Young Spine play. So they say it's Harvey, oh shit, Harvey, blah, blah. Well, immediately, a cop runs on the field. Which, I would say this. I don't imagine there is some outsider group of folk watching KVKL live on Twitch. The viewer count was somewhere between 10 and 15 when I was watching, but God forbid someone was. I just love the mere idea that one person probably thinks that we have a police presence at our kickball games on a regular basis. But in reality, Harvey was the officer who ran out there because I believe he was working last night, which is why he was not playing, and just so happened to be there at the game with the time of his injury. And so player goes down, Harvey runs out there, and the immediate reaction from the broadcast panel is oh my God, there's a cop on the field. Must be a friend of Harvey who's gotten injured. Harvey's a cop. Must be his friend or compadre or coworker, blah, blah. And I'm I believe it at the time. I'm sure, whatever. Then you hear him go on and on. They're talk. My immediate count was 37 times they mentioned Harvey being the player injured. So I'm not kidding. 37. Most people be like, "Oh, Bryce, you're being dramatic." No, they legitimately in that 7-8 minute time period that game was delayed. They said Harvey's name 7-8 times. And mind you, all credit to Kenny Caberline. They're all positive words, but Kenny went on a 2-minute rant talking about how good Harvey is and how important he is to their team and how brutal it's going to be now that they don't have him. And it was never him, and he was never out there to play. Which to me is just funny, and a funny note and all. So, all the best to Ian. Really unfortunate injury there. But the crazy part is, that wasn't even close to the craziest thing that happened in that game. Early on in the game, I think probably in the third inning, I would guess, maybe fourth. Really brutal collision at home plate between Matt Pendry and Willis, a former KBC Tropic, which probably doesn't make the situation better. My understanding is that the on-field refs decided that Willis was out because the ball hit him. Video's 2020. I would say the first time I watched the clip, I kind of thought the first baseman's throw hit Willis before the collision. And before Matt had really, dove out in the way that he did, which was at fault to the defender. Matt was at fault for this collision. But my understanding, at least from my initial watch, and again, I have a really, really shitty view, is that Willis got hit and then Matt dove into him trying to stop the ball and they collided. which to me, my understanding of KBKL rules is that would still have been an out. You can't call interference after somebody is out. However, probably zooming in, slowing it down, going a little bit slower, watching it a couple times, like it's very clear that the ball hits Matt's hand. Like Matt puts his hand out and like is kind of in a sweeping batting motion towards the ball to hit Willis. That's exactly what happens to get Willis out. Willis is out by all considering factors, but the reality of the situation is that Matt Pindry dove into Willis's very clear running path to get said ball and hit him, and they had a very, very, very brutal collision at home plate. Both players down the ground for 10, 15 seconds at least. At least sounds like, at least from what I saw, both players continued to play, so it sounds like everything was good there. Thankfully, no one in that collision had to go to the hospital. Pretty hard to disagree with the call on the field. Again, because like they did have that better angle, and like I know they got together and what they came to the decision that he was out, which is what it is. But that kind of goes back to a bigger picture take that I have, and I've heard some people like kind of agree with the principle that's like a game of the week, especially like we treat it like it's special and acknowledge that it's different than a regular game in a ton of ways. But one of the ways we don't, which has never really made sense to me, is that we don't acknowledge the fact that everybody's there, the board is there. I mean, I would imagine both commissioners were there. And to me, I don't really have a problem, and I can't imagine, as a captain, I can't imagine many other captains would have a problem with if an egregiously wrong call is made on the field. I don't think anyone's going to have a problem with a board member stepping in and saying, hey, you guys are handling the situation incorrectly. The wrong call has been made. It is my understanding that a board member was called in to help with the readjusting of the lineups post-injury, which makes sense to me. The injury lineup situation is like, it's very clear cut in the rules, but it's something that doesn't happen enough. And it's just such a weird situation with who you can move around and how you drop people and how you unsplit people and stuff like that. That to me, it makes sense why you would consult a board member, if not multiple of them. And so I have no problem with that. But to me, it's very shocking to me. And I get the board's perspective is probably like, we want to be hands off. We don't want to interfere with the game. But to me, when you have a situation like that where it's very clear that a collision happened, and the rules, I mean, there's a rule that quite literally says players should try to do everything they can to avoid contact at all times. Matt Pidgery didn't try to blast into Willis by any means. I mean, he's trying to make a play on the ball, and no qualms with that in reality. But the reality is that he fucking blasted into Willis and fucking knocked Willis' shit, man. And that to me is a safe runner. And so I don't know. I obviously wasn't down on the field. I wasn't a part of the conversation. So I'm not quite sure how they reached the out verdict, but I have to imagine the hindsight 2020 call there is that they were wrong. And so that is that collision. But it gets worse, and it gets to the real drama one, and a situation that, I'll say with the amount of messages I received about this situation, something that's almost unprecedented at a game of the week or at a kickball game. I mean, the situation basically is the previously mentioned self-suspended player, Reese, for KBC Tropics, plays a good, good might be too strong of a word, but he plays to kick up one with the goal to move his base runner and hopefully, he's very fast, so to allow himself to outrun the ball and hopefully get safe at first base. Basically just a classic bunt up one. They have a girl at bunt stop. I am unaware of who this woman is. The score sheets can tell me what her name is, but that's not going to help me pick her out of a crowd or identify her by any means. But my understanding, I don't even remember what they said her name was. I think they might have said it was Jess. I think that's what they said her name was. Anyways, they had Jess playing bump. I'm going to pretend her name's Jess. And if her name's not Jess, that's not my problem. But she was playing bump block, and Reese bunts the ball. And again, I was watching this live on Twitch with a really bad broadcast angle, which is, I'm just saying, it's like the refs on the field had a much better angle than I. And she bunts the one. She grabs the ball and goes to tag him as he's sprinting full speed up the baseline. You see them kind of collide, they don't really collide in a traditional sense. He tries to, a little bit skirt out of her way. She hits him with the ball. But what you do see immediately is her kind of drop to the ground, holding the side of her head. And then about 2.4 seconds later, you start to see what is the beginning of a generational crash out. And I'm a firm believer, and I still believe this with the chance to rewatch this 10 times, if not more. I don't think her actions were in any way just unjustified. I have no problem with like kind of at least the way she physically acted. There was a lot of violent hand motions. There was a lot of stomping around. There was a lot like you could tell she was in pain. Again, I'm watching from far away. I can only imagine what was said on the field that I haven't been told about and this, that, the other. But you could tell she was in pain. Immediately, like if she was wearing some sort of a top shirt or sweatshirt of some sort, ripped that off immediately, and that's when you start to realize that she's bleeding, and like kind of using it to hold against her head to cover the blood. The reality of the situation is we are now aware. I believe she had 7 stitches put in to address the pretty gnarly gash on her head. Is kind of what it was described to me. So this is a very interesting subject because last time we had a conversation about, at least publicly, about a collision with a defender trying to get someone out or grab the ball up one with a base runner. The thread resulted in someone barking at another human being and lashing out and attacking them in a way I've never seen in a public Facebook forum before for a charity kickball league. So my hope is that doesn't happen here. But I'm also not scared of anybody, so what people can say whatever they want about me, I don't really care. My honest take when I watched it live is almost similar to earlier, where I was like, to me, I actually really thought Reese was majorly at fault. To me, it really looked like live. It was like she was clearly collecting that ball and clearly going to get him out. He probably should have slowed down and accepted what was going to happen there. Which is kind of, I think, what a majority of people do. Like, if you're running to second base and that second baseman is like standing there to tag you with the ball, or like you're very clearly going to get thrown out. Like there's that natural, like, okay, I'm going to start to slow down or do what I can to avoid a collision here. Because again, the rules do state that you should avoid a collision. And also it's important to note in this situation, that girl fielded the kicked ball. You as the kicker have to get out of the way of the player who fielded your kicked ball. And so like, I would say, did she maybe like wander a bit more than she needed to? Sure. But to me, like watching it in real time, I was like, Reese like could have probably prevented this. Like that was what was in my head immediately. But again, you get a chance to watch it back, zoom in, watch it with a better view. I don't know if I agree with that take anymore. I think the reality of the situation is that girl was in the hospital last night because Reese tried to avoid the tag. I think like, I'm not saying that like something worse wouldn't have happened because, there's obviously the potential that if he didn't try to avoid and just tried to run through it, that something even worse could have happened. But I do think like in the process of trying to avoid the tag, the arm came up and elbow to the head in some capacity. I know some people were saying shoulder. To me, it seems pretty clearly an elbow, and especially I think the gash on her head indicates elbow. But yeah, I think him trying to avoid. And did he do the best job? No. Could he have done a better job? Probably. But the reality is, her head's cut open. And to me, like the crash out that happened afterwards, is like, I would say all things considered, I have no qualms with it. I'm sure there will be board members that disagree. I'm sure there's people in this league that disagree. I'm never going to pretend that I'm one to agree with the status quo or what everybody else's opinions are. But to me, you get hit in the head, and especially, first things first, hell, she could be concussed. We don't know, especially in that moment. First things first, so you get hit in the head, like, to me, like, I really do think just about anything is warranted. I'm going to use the word alleged, because I don't want to get sued for a Pirate Pod statement. But there are rumors that she allegedly had wanted to slash Reese's car tires in response to his attack to her head. I'm going to hope that that's just not true, or hope that that was just said out of anger in the moment, which again, to me, is not really that shocking. Like, I think it's really easy to sit in the crowd and drink your Jello shots or drink your beers and hang out with your friends and say, oh, I would have responded differently. But the reality of the situation is, post me getting fucking kicked out of the league 4 years ago for doing quite literally nothing wrong. And the way everybody's handled all these different situations kind of proves that I really did nothing wrong. But it's one of those situations where I think it could have been handled better. I do think like my initial take would be, and I don't think Reese is in the wrong for not doing it. Like immediately you could tell he was like, "Oh, I didn't mean to do that," and you could tell his body language was like that. But I would argue, and I would argue an attempt to make an apology. I think would have been really good. You can see in the video footage. I think it was Cole kind of tried to like push him into the dugout as soon as possible. As you could tell, that girl was like lashing out verbally and probably saying things that weren't very nice about Reese, which obviously could have like escalated that into a different situation had he decided to respond differently. He did not respond differently, but I would argue that like I think if we were going to live in a world where that situation is going to happen, but it's going to be treated as best as possible, I do think more attempt at making an apology I think would have been helpful. I think about a 5-minute break, if not more. You see a lot of long conversations with the refs, with each other, with the captains. I know Julie Windish from the Toe Pokes had a very long conversation with the refs. I believe my understanding is that the refs basically asked the Pendries, who are the captains of the Tropics, to remove Reese for the rest of the game to keep the peace. The game was kind of not out of control at that point by any means, but at least the way the Toe Pokes had been playing, and I mean, hell, the score sheets are available at CallValleyKickball.com. I mean, the Toe Pokes never kicked more than 6 people in an inning, and they only did that once. I mean, they really weren't generating much. And so I don't think, I don't think it's a bad statement for the refs to say, hey, this game is more than likely over. Reese, a player I believe that was splitting on defense, if we could just keep him out of the game, I do agree with that approach. I do agree with the idea there, and I imagine that Ryan and Matt weren't the happiest about being told that in response to what we would probably all declare to be an accident. But I do think that situation was handled correctly by the refs. So that really brings in the question, because I have heard rumors. I don't know all the details, but I have heard rumors on different people's different opinions on how that girl responded to that situation. And so, obviously, at least my understanding is maybe that girl's probably not playing again this summer. Hopefully this isn't a situation that pushes her away from the league long term. But, yeah, I mean, I'll say this. I'll say my take on the situation is probably 100% different than how the board would view the situation. But again, like I really don't think you can blame someone for getting cut in the head, and then like having a really, really aggressive response when like their take is going to be like, this was super avoidable. I had the ball. You didn't need to do that. Like I was going to tag you out. You were going to be out. Like that's unavoidable. This, the other. So I really have no qualm with how she responded. I know she said a lot of very vicious and mean things, and very aggressive. And to give everybody a laugh, I do believe she is quoted to have been said about 6 minutes into this crash out, that if he wasn't removed from the game, she was going to lose her shit. I would argue she lost her shit about 4 seconds after the injury happened, which all power to her. Again, I support that decision, but pretty funny to me to see that be kind of thrown around as a threat. So, yeah, last night's game of the week, supposed to be a good game. Didn't really turn out to be. Turned out to be a long game. Filled with collisions, filled with injuries. And to me, that really brings back kind of the point that I think some people tried to make last summer when there was a couple of collisions. That it's like, yeah, as probably the person that takes this league, I'm not sure there's anyone more competitive than me in this league. And I don't mean that as like, I'm sure there are people who like, want to win more in this area. But it's like, dude, I want to win more than I want to breathe air. I hate losing. Like losing is a sign of weakness. And so I fucking hate that shit. And so, I'm all for like, you got to run plays out. You got to do your thing to try to win. You got to take advantage of what you can take advantage of. But I do think it's important for people to remember. And I probably lose sight of this at point. There's a kid who tried to call me out for yelling at refs last week. And we'll talk about yelling at refs in a second. But to me, I don't really have a problem with, giving your all and like, going like the collision stuff's going to happen. They make us sign waivers for a reason. I'm sure the fucking board is in their goddamn Slack channel fist bumping each other saying, hell yeah, thank God we made everybody sign a fucking waiver because we had fucking 2 people in the hospital last night. God forbid they didn't sign a waiver, the league would be fucked. But yeah, I don't know. Like to me, I really do think that people don't prioritize safety enough in a couple ways. Like, a couple seasons ago, Josh, when I was on Post House, like, and again, like, a ton of people do this, so you can't blame them. But it's like, for me, I'm a big, like, dude, I'm old. I'm fucking 30, man. I'm getting old. My joints pop when I walk. I wake up in the morning, I gotta pop my thumb to get it to work. And it's like Josh, like, was going to second base, was clearly going to get out, and jumped to, like, try to avoid a tag for no reason when he really wasn't going to be able to avoid it. Lands wrong, tears his ACL. And it's like, that's the shit that can happen. That's the shit that happens when you get old. And that's why, like, to me, I think a lot of people, and, you can't blame everyone for not being able to, like, multitask, for lack of a better term, of, like, playing kickball and also being safe. But it's like, dude, like, the person I can think of the best that, like, does a really good job of this is Trey for Global. At least, like, in the few times I've seen it, is like, he's a bigger dude, bigger than probably 95% of the league. And I mind you, I watched him and Ricky collide last year, which was like a fucking, like, earthquake going off at Hobbs Park when that happened. But it's like, there comes a point where it's like, if you are going to collide with someone, if you don't, like, do something on your own, like, if that person is in your way and wrongly in your way, I'm a firm believer. And again, like, you can say that this is wrong, but, like, I'm probably going to handle this way every single way until the league fucking bans me again for doing it. And then but it's like, I'll just, like, run and grab it, hold on to them, and then I'll let go. Like, it's like a, lack of a better term, like a side hug situation where it's like, hey, like, I'm going to stop, hug, let go, and be like, dude, this person's got my way. And it's like, I just did us both a favor. One, I'm fucking 6'3", 250 pounds. I will fucking steamroll 97% of the people in this league, especially a majority of the sweet young ladies that are standing over second base when I come fucking barreling in there. And it's like, for me, it's better for us to play the safety game, and I maybe run the risk of, one, getting banned from the league for touching someone who didn't want to be touched, which is not my problem, get off the fucking base. Or two, you look at the situation, it's like, hey, this person was just in my way, and instead of fucking proving to the rest, who may or may not have been paying attention, that they were in my way, I'm going to make a physical contact of some sort that is going to show, hey, this person was in my way, I shouldn't have to slow down, because the last thing I want to do, because the second I'll say this, is it's like, the refs get put into a bad situation, because if I get interfered with, and they call me out, there is absolutely no incentive to me to ever try to play nice in that situation ever again. And so that is my resolution on the situation. I don't think there is a perfect solution. My biggest take when I ref, again, I am the greatest ref of all time. If I have recorded a game, if there's a game recorded and I was reffing, I assure you that I didn't make a single wrong call. Not a single person stepped over home plate and wasn't called foul. Not a single ball was called foul when it wasn't foul, at least by me. Not like, I am the greatest ref of all time, and that I'll stroke my own ego about that. I do not care. But what I would say is, like, and people can tell you, well, I've refed first responders versus Invictus with fucking 34-4 game last week. But it's like, on multiple occasions, anytime there was like a interference or someone doing something they shouldn't have, I pointed it out, especially safety related stuff. Like the catcher for first responders was doing some things that, like, could have gotten him hurt, and I was like, hey man, like, you got to be cognizant of that. And it's like, pointing that stuff out, I do believe helps. I think something a lot of people do. I was rewatching an old game actually earlier this morning from when I was on Post House, and it's like something a lot of people do is check to a base to cover it when the ball is never going to be played there, or like if you're covering third base or whatever, and I'm on second base, and there's a ball blasted to right field, and you go to third base to check the base, like to stand there as if the ball could ever be thrown there when it cannot be. And I'm trying to round that base. You have now interfered with me. That is 100% interfered. I'm going to call that every single time. And a good ref should call that every single time. You have 100% interfered with this person's ability to round the base. Because you are not making a play. There's absolutely no play at that base. And you are now forcing this person to take a different path when they do not need to take an extra path. That is interference. And that's something that I think happens a ton. I refed our bar versus Rockets a couple weeks ago. Mind you, in theory, I actually did miss this call, but it was more so like it was a non-factor. But the catcher for Rockets, like, legitimately, like parked his bus in the middle of the fucking third base path, and I don't remember which one of the Aguilar twins it was, but one of them almost plowed right into him, and then got very mad at me for not calling it, even though he was safe and the ball was rolling into the fence. But yeah, that to me, I think the safety stuff is like something that people aren't prioritizing enough, while like trying to figure out, like, how can I do this safely? How can we do this safely? Like, how can I make this play? Like, I'm a big, like, I probably will never tag someone with the ball because, like, especially if they're running, like, I don't want to, I'm trying to think of, I'm just going to use a random girl. Let's say Becca, like, kicks the ball to one, and I play post house a couple weeks. Kicks the ball to one, and I'm, like, going to tag her. It's like, she's running full speed, and I go to tag her, like, something really bad could come from that. It's like, I could, like, tag her, and she gets off balance, tears her ACL, or falls over. It's like, something really bad can come from those situations. So I'm a big, like, especially if it's, like, 2 outs already, like, I'll just kind of, like, let go of the ball in front of them, and it's like, hey, like, or make them run into the ball. Like, I'm kind of anti, like, the physical tag just because I do think bad things can come from it. But it's also the inverse is, like, is that incentivizing you to throw the ball at people? And, like, should you be beaming people? Like, I played with Marcus. Well, I see Marcus fucking last year beam people from, like, 4 feet away. And it's like, bro, they got a family at home. They got kids. They got a wife. Or they got a husband or whatever. They have a wife and a husband. I don't know what they have at home. But he'd be beaming people from 4 feet away. And it's like, I don't think that's a better solution than fucking tag collisions by any means. But yeah, I don't know. I think the safety thing's a real issue. And I know the league takes safety first when they're making rules, which I think is huge. And I know at least the board made multiple decisions this offseason with the idea of safety in mind. So it's not like it's being ignored, but I do think it's something that players, I think, need to do their part more in, of paying attention and trying to make the right call stuff there. So that's really all I have on Game of the Week from last night. There's a lot, we can still talk about a funny Tropics thing. And again, I don't want it to seem like a dog pile by any means, because first off, I am a proud member of the band from the league group, a very, very elite society, invite-only, basically, situation to have been banned from the KVKL for a season. So I don't want it to seem like I'm stockpiling on Reese's mistakes by any means. But it is worth noting that Reese was also very much involved in a very, very heated situation when reffing a couple weeks ago. I don't necessarily know exactly the resolution the board came to. My understanding was it was an IFU. I think the board issued an IFU to Reese / the Tropics, but my understanding is basically he was reffing a Red Lion game a couple weeks ago, and may or may not, this is all alleged, may or may not have told people to suck his dick. Alleged. Again, it's alleged. I wasn't there. I'm not reporting this as fact. This is an alleged situation. The board made their decision on whether or not they believed any of the things that were rumored to have been said. There were also things that I will not be saying on the Pirate Pod that he was rumored to have said. Again, I have no opinion on those, and I am not going to elaborate further as none of them were verifiable. But he definitely told people to suck his dick. And mind you, on many different levels, one could argue that's a problem. I don't know the context. I think we all know Red Lion isn't necessarily the nicest team in the league when they're, maybe in a heated ball game or in a heated moment. So I'm not going to say whether an S my D, I'm going to stop saying suck my dick, so I'm going to start calling it an S my D. I'm not going to say whether an S my D was necessary or allowed. Should an S my D ever be allowed? I don't make the rules. I just come on the Pirate Pod and talk. But it is very interesting. We got a player obviously very much involved, and this may or may not be why he was suspended by his own team for 2 games, but allowed to play in the middle of it. Very interesting prison sentence here by the Tropics. But, yeah, I don't know. The reffing thing's, I think, something else we'll talk about here. And I'm going to try to wrap this up in like 15, 20 minutes. Hopefully it doesn't go much longer. But the reffing thing's really interesting. Especially one, because I got a kid on a team that I'm about to play this upcoming week trying to call me out for yelling at the volunteer refs. I have always disagreed, and for those of you that have actually, listened or watched the Pirate Pod since its inception, I'm pretty open. I'm not just gonna come on here and lie for no reason or say yes to say yes. I'm not that type of guy. I disagree with the sentiment that it's volunteer refs. I actually wholeheartedly disagree with that. You know what? Who are volunteer refs? Tyler, Jimmy, and I think Derek. Whoever went out and reffed JB's Cali Fusion and Bald Beavers. Those are volunteer refs. The closest we get to that, besides those situations where it's like teams making up games, is the playoffs or the championship Sunday, where it's like, in theory, you do not have any obligation to ref, and you're not going to ref. Those are volunteer refs. I would argue on championship Sunday, you should not be reffing a game if you are not willing to get yelled at. I actually like very, very, very strongly believe that. I don't think that you should be consequence free for making calls that teams perceive to be wrong. I wholeheartedly disagree with that, and I know that multiple board members will listen to this and tell me that they wholeheartedly disagree with me, and that's perfectly fine. But to me, I have no problem with a firm believement and accountability. And it's if you're reffing my game and you make a bad call, and it has happened in all my games. All my games are recorded, by the way, because I bought Marcus a fucking $5,000 GoPro. If you make a bad call, and it's happened in multiple games. I'll use my first game of the season against Sacred Sword, and we had first responders, mind you, first game of the league, ref in our game. The first base ref, for both teams, he made some really, really bad calls. And that's fine. That's kickball. They're going to make bad calls, and I am perfectly okay with it. Mind you, like I said, it balanced out, so it's like, I'm never going to blame the refs post-game. You will never catch me being like, we lost because of the refs. That will never happen for me. But I don't think there's a single problem with saying, hey, like, you're getting these fucking calls wrong. Like you are. And it's like, my real take on why I don't have a problem with holding refs accountable is that it's like, you're going to want to hold the refs in your own game accountable. You want your games refed. I refed Invictus versus First Responders. The team that was probably ranked second versus the team that was probably ranked second to last. And I refed that game like it was the goddamn Cup Championship. I called people foul when they stepped past the home plate to kick the ball, which does not get called enough. Marcus records these games, and people step across home plate to kick the ball like 3-4 times a game. It never gets fucking called, which is fucking insane. But it's like, first inning, I literally called Stefan out for rounding third base, stopping. Pitcher got the ball, and then Pat kind of forced him off the bag to run home. I go back, and they walked to third base, touched the bag. I called him out. And, immediately Luke comes over and says, hey, are you sure about that? Like, was he moving this? Yeah. And I was like, yeah. And then, mind you, Pat eventually came over and was like, yeah, like 100%. Like, I fucked him over. Like, I forced him off the base. Like, and he was kind of heading back to the base. And then, I started running to third base. So then he had to run home. It's like 100%. Like, I'm going to ref every single game I'm reffing like it's the Cup Championship. I'm going to treat every single team with respect. If I make a wrong call, or if I make a call the other team perceives to be bad, I have absolutely no qualms with that person, with the captains from that team, coming over and letting me know their displeasure. And if it's something that is repeated, I have no problem with someone letting me know their displeasure. If it's so bad that they think I need to be removed from the game, I have no qualm with that, because I'm going to say something. And this is something that a lot of people might actually agree with, but don't actually think about. I think it is so much worse for me to come over to the head ref and be like, I need you to remove this first base ref, than me to have yelled the 1 or 2 times that I thought he made a bad call. I think it's more embarrassing. I think it's really embarrassing. I think it's actually really one of the most embarrassing things that could ever happen to you in this kickball league is you be removed from reffing a game. One, because everyone's going to talk about it, everyone's going to gossip about it, everyone's going to laugh at you, and this, that, the other, and talk shit about you. And then it's like, now everyone's going to think, oh, wow, this person's now reffing my game for the foreseeable future anytime you're reffing a game again. And so, yeah, that's an absolute nightmare situation. And again, like, you shouldn't be personally attacking refs. You shouldn't be fucking throwing at them. You shouldn't be fucking kicking dirt. Like, I have no problem. Again, like, we played Corksuckers 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, whenever it was. And it's like, that first base ref was on film, made some very bad calls. And mind you, he made a very good call in my favor. He called me safe at first base when I think I was out. But it's like, he made a couple of really fucking bad calls. And he made a call, and this is when I got angry, was he made a call, he said the ball hit the ground. When it was thrown to my first baseman caught it, and he said the ball hit the ground. And the ball hitting the ground does not mean my first baseman did not catch the ball. A catch happens when the ball is in your hands and no longer moving. If the ball hits the ground after that, it is still a catch. And if you don't realize that, I don't know what to say to you. But to me, nothing pisses me off more than when people say, bobble, or ball hit the ground. It's like, if I bobble the ball, but I re-secure the ball is back in my hands and has stopped moving before the person touches the base, they are out. And that ref, after making some very bad calls, and again, that game is on film, after making some very bad calls, said the ball hit the ground, safe. After it was a very clear out. And I went to the home ref, And I very loudly expressed my displeasure towards the first base ref, which was his teammate, which is why I expressed it to him. If it was the third base ref, for example, I would have told Andrea, who did a fantastic job keeping book, and mind you, kept note, and mind you, told me great game 100 times after the game, and had absolutely no qualms with any of the yelling I did. I would have said, hey, I'm disagreeing with this guy. But I told the guy, hey, this is your fucking teammate. I want you to hold him accountable. Because again, when I go ref a Sacred Sword game, and our first base ref gets 45 fucking calls wrong, you're going to want the same thing from me. So I have no problem with ref accountability. No personal attacks. No telling people to S my D. All that's unnecessary. No getting in people's face screaming. No non-captains leaving the dugout fucking getting in people's face screaming. Like, it needs to be captains, and it needs to be done in a rational fashion. Like, again, like, I am a firm believer that, like, it's not positive reinforcement. It's the wrong word, but it's like, if I let a ref know I'm not happy about the calls they're making, it's like, my hope is that ref is going to be like, hey, I need to be paying better attention, so I stop getting yelled at. Like, that is my honest take. And that is what I would want. That is what I would want a ref or a captain from the other team to want from me when I'm reffing. So that is my take on the ref situation. I don't think we've had anything too bad this year from what I've heard. Obviously, Cougar fucking up a complete score of a game and forcing them to play extra kickball is really, really, really bad. That's actually like... my honest worry is that like the Tropics are going to start getting fucking IFUs for all this shit and they actually might get in trouble. I don't want that by any means. But it's like, I mean, if that's not worthy of an IFU, what is? I mean, like, that is really bad. That is really, really bad. That's like, on top of the fact that it's obviously like an egregious mistake, there's also this like, imagine this. And obviously, I'm going to knock on wood on their behalf. Like, I would never root for injuries for anyone. But it's like, what happens if fucking Austin Myers collides with someone in the 10th inning and gets hurt? And it did not need to happen. All because the bookkeeper made it. It's like, it's one of those things where it's like, that is really, really bad. It's the same concept as like a basketball game. A team's up, or the Lions in football this year. I'm sure Cal will appreciate the shout out when she listens. It's like, the Lions, Aiden Hutchinson out for the whole fucking year because they're up 700 fucking points on whoever the fuck they were playing. And he gets hurt. And it's like, when you have a chance to lower injury risk, it's like when you're up big, you shouldn't be fucking playing your best players in sports. As everyone knows that. You shouldn't be like overly trying. If I'm up 25 runs on the ringers, I'm not going to go sliding head first into bases and like, you know, I'm just going to avoid all that. It's unnecessary. And so it's like, it's one of those situations where it's like, they played an extra inning of kickball, which means they increased their exposure of injury by 5%. That's a random number, might even be wrong. But it's like, and it's all because of an error made by Cougar. And also, too, it's like, I don't think you should be, like, rewarded because the error fixed itself. I think that's even, like, kind of like a, like, I'm sure the board knows, and I'm sure there are some board members who, like, kind of think in the, like, pessimistic, like, what worst-case scenario situation, or at least, like, recognize what could have happened. But it's like, that would have been really, really, really bad if the Tokers had won in extra innings. That would be like really, really, really bad. Because it's like, in theory, then it opens up this whole Pandora's box of what if situations. And what if post that run being scored in the fifth inning, like, I'm sure, like, and I'm sure Free State would tell you this, and Tokers would tell you this. If Tokers knew they were losing in the sixth inning instead of tied, or whatever the score was, they would have done all these things differently. But they still lost the game, so it doesn't matter. But it's like, if they had won that game in extra innings, then it's like, holy shit, like, we could have won the game. Like, we didn't know. We didn't know we needed to do this. We kicked when we would have bunted, or we bunted when we would have kicked, or we would have known we needed to score. You know, it's like, it opens a whole Pandora's box. So I'll be very curious, like, if there's a punishment for the Cougar situation. And, like, my honest take is, and, like, I love Cougar. I'm a Cougar guy. I'm pro Cougar. I think what Cougar adds to the KVKL is actually, like, a niche level of content that is almost probably unfathomable to anyone outside of this league. And honestly, probably unprecedented across this entire country. But my honest take would be is that, like, I think he's got to get an IFU at bare minimum. And, like, I would not hate if the board said, Cougar, you, like, cannot ref for the next 2 weeks or something. Like, I don't even know if that provides a solution. Probably doesn't. But it's like, to me, that is super problematic, that happened. And again, like, nothing bad came of it, so it's fine. But it's like, you know, that's a situation that, like, I would imagine there are some board members, like I was trying to say earlier, that are taking a deep, deep, deep sigh of relief. Mind you, I'm not sure all the board members know about this as of this moment. By the time that Marcus gets this uploaded on his YouTube, probably will. But it's like that could have been a fucking massive headache. Like if Free State won in regulation and lost in our extra innings, there's no like maybe Seth's like, hey, we'll just be the nice guys and replay this game. But it's like there's no world I would ever replay that game. It's like what you stand to gain nothing. You stand to gain absolutely nothing. We're playing it. You won the fucking game, and the only reason you didn't is because the bookkeeper made a massive, egregious error, and that's really bad. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what comes of that. But circling back to Red Lion, we're gonna keep this part short because it's kind of unnecessary to talk about in detail, and it's honestly like I don't want to say it's like disgusting, but it's reached just like disturbing level of like behavior from adults, especially a successful adult. Well, there was a damn near fight at Red Lion last night at the very late hours post game of the week between two people that play in the Cobb Valley Kickball League. I've not heard both sides of the story, so I'm going to somewhat remit my opinion. But, one of my teammates, for example, in KVKL was there and gave me her eyewitness testimony without having any idea what my preconceived notions of the situation were. And her takes kind of all re-emphasized everything I already knew. And it had already been told about the situation. And, like, to me, like, I just really think that, like, it's funny to me, because I'm a big, like, I'll laugh about just about anything guy. Like, just about anything can make me laugh. Like, things are funny, life's funny. I love to laugh. But it's like, it's funny to me to think about what the like discourse was 4 years ago when I pushed a girl off first base to try and get her to go to second when she didn't really understand what was going on and why she needed to run to second base. And it's like, it's so crazy to me to think about like what would have happened if like some of the things that are happening now in the KVKL on the field, off the field, were happening. Because it's like, it's putting the board in a horrible spot. And it's like, again, like, I'm sure plenty of people on the board think I hate them or think that I think they're bad at their job. Very much not true. But it's like, it's putting the board in a tough spot. I know, I don't know the details of this situation either, but I know the board was kind of put in a spot a couple weeks ago about a team refusing to play if something didn't happen. And like, it's one of those things where it's like, again, like 4 years ago, like, 4 years ago, I think if someone tried to start a fight at Red Lion after kickball, like, the person who tried to start that fight or like cocked back to fucking punch would be like suspended for the rest of the season. And like, I'm not asking for that to happen now by any means. Like, I don't think that's the right solution. I think the right solution is for people to fucking use their brains and use their heads. And like, what does fighting do, man? Like, I got in fights when I was like 15, and like my balls hadn't dropped and my voice was still high and like I was stupid. Like my brain hadn't developed. And I don't know, just to me, like, it goes back to the S-MID thing. Like, I know there's a wide age gap of people in the league, so, I wouldn't expect, much better from a 22-year-old than I would from a 40-year-old or anything like that. But it's like, it's one of those things where that, for lack of a better term, I feel like we've lost the plot. Like, we're a kickball league, a charity kickball league at the end of the day. And people love to pull that card, and I hate pulling that card. But it's like, people love to pull that card anytime like things get competitive. It's like, oh, we're just a charity kickball league. We don't want to make this fair. We're just trying to have fun and be inclusive. I'm all for it. Go be inclusive. Go be fun. But it's like, we shouldn't be threatening people. And again, I'm taking no sides publicly on this, or at least on the Pirate Pod about this. I'm just reporting on a situation that is boiling over, and it's one of many situations, which is just disgusting. It's like, we're bullying people in the year 2025. You know what I mean? And it's like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, grow up, find something else to care about. Why are we bullying people? Like, it's like, it's just insane behavior. It's like, bullying people, like, shit-talking people to fucking 23-year-old. Like, who gives a fuck? Like, if you don't like someone, don't talk to them. Like, there's people I don't like. I don't talk to people I don't like. And that's something I think people, like, struggle with. It's like, if I don't like you, like, you probably think I'm, like, boring or annoying. It's like, if I don't like you, I'm just not going to talk to you. And that's perfect. Like, we can walk past each other at kickball and not say a word. Like, that can happen. That's very easy to do. If you don't like me, don't say a fucking word to me. Don't start a fake conversation with me. Don't try and have a conversation with me and then later go talk shit on me to someone who's going to come tell me that you talk shit on me because they're getting off on the fact that they're like gossiping about me and then telling me that someone's got, like, people fucking love that shit. People eat that shit up. That's why the Pirate Pod exists. People love gossiping. But it's like, at the end of the day, it's just grow up, man. Grow up. Grow up. Last couple of things of gossip. This, to me, is actually, what I'm about to share is my favorite story so far from the kickball season. And the funny thing is, like, hopefully this doesn't come off as insulting, but I think, like, probably, like, half the kickball league doesn't know who any of these people are, and especially, like, 90% of the kickball league probably doesn't know who the third party is in this. But the craziest thing happened, like, right before the season started this season, that, like, no one's talking about, and, I love this, and I wish I would, it's one of those things that makes you wish I was still playing at, like, the top level of kickball instead of, like, in the midfield, because it's, like, it's just so funny, like, dynamic shit like this that happened. But long story short is, there's a girl who's now in Global. All credit to her. Global's one of the best teams in the league. Congratulations, you fell your way out. She joined Redlegs this season. Redlegs, made some changes in the women department on their team. Added some players, parted ways with some players. But in the process of getting there was actually kind of fucking nuts. And I feel like everyone deserves to know this because it's like, it's just, to me, I can't watch these teams play and not think about it. So I'm just going to share it. One of the craziest things ever. I don't know how long Jack has been on Redlegs. I know he's been on Redlegs for a long time. And how do I know that? Because in 2019, I kicked a home run against Redlegs that hit off Jack. It hit off, like, Jack was going to catch it. Mind you, Jack's fucking great in center field. But he was fucking sprinting after that fucking ball and, like, hit off his shoulder or hit off his arm and went over the fence. And so that's how I know Jack. Jack, great player. Redlegs, solid team. Beat the shit out of us last year. Just beat the shit out of my team, missing half our team this week. They're a great team. Jack's been on Redlegs for a long time. I don't necessarily know how long Jessica Beal has been on the Redlegs. I like Jessica Beal. She filled in for us in fall ball. I think Jessica Beal is actually really good at kickball. I think that if Jessica Beal went to a team that knew how to play kickball and knew how to help people understand how to play kickball better and knew how to make people better, I think she would be significantly better than she is. And unfortunately, that is not the current case. However, she was on Redlegs. Been on Redlegs for a while, at least as long as I can remember her being on Redlegs. Anyways, before the season, new girl on the team says that Jess said fuck off or fuck you to her. Okay, she's like, I'm not playing with her. New girl, she said fuck you to me. So the new girl gone over to Global. Good for her. And this girl's in the Kansas City League, so that's why I feel perfectly fine just saying whatever I want about the girl. Goes off to the Global. Good for her. Having fun over there. Probably winning more. Props to her. Again, she fell forward. No complaints there. But the funny part about this is the residual of the fact that now Jessica Biel is being blamed for something that she did not say. And people did not believe that she did not say that. And I don't want to get into the semantics of why people did not believe that she did not say that. But the long story short is people did not believe her that she didn't say that. And so she removed herself from Redlegs. And to me, completely understandably, because if you're not going to believe, if I didn't say something, and my team is not going to believe me, or going to accuse me of having said something, especially something mean or, vicious or vile that, caused team disruption, then, like, fuck you guys. That would be my take. It's like, fuck you guys. If you don't want to believe me, and maybe it's my fault you guys don't believe me, like, maybe I'm an asshole, maybe you believe that I would say that, that could be on me, but if I didn't say it and you guys don't believe me, fuck you guys. Well, she is dating Jack, who's on Redlegs. And so, she says, Jack, I don't want you playing with him, Jack. Jack's like, all right, so I'm leaving. So Jack's now in Love Garden. Jessica and Jack are on Love Garden. And some of you are like, why is he telling this story? Why is he telling this story? Why is he telling this story? Well, 3 weeks ago, somewhere in that mix of 2 to 3 weeks ago, comes out. Haley said the wrong Jess. Jess Hilbert said the fuck you thing. And Jess Hilbert's like, no, I fucking didn't. Long story short, we're skipping all this bullshit details. Nobody told her to fuck off. She fucked up an entire team. She came into our league. She got brought into our league to play on a team, went in there, and blew the place up. Like a bull in a china shop. Went fucking crazy. Dropped lies, dropped rumors, blew the team up, and then left and went to a better team. That, to me, is something I can laugh about. In my I assume Red Legs probably aren't laughing about it. But me, I'm laughing about it. I think that's fucking hilarious. I think that's great. I wish we had a fucking Bravo show. My boy West Wilson on Summer House, trying to get him to come out for KVKL 1 week this summer, probably will happen. Because I got to sell him to sell the Bravo people to get a KVKL reality show, because that's the good shit. We're coming into teams, saying people said things they never said, or we're directed at somebody else, a friend, a joking fuck you or fuck off to somebody else, saying it was said to you, saying I'm leaving the team, people are mean to me, going to a better team, going to win more, but blowing up the other team in the process. That is what makes KVKL beautiful. That is fucking reality TV. That is beautiful. Speaking of reality TV, Love Island starts tonight. Love Island UK. If you watch Love Island USA, there's something wrong with you. Love Island UK starts tonight. Better watch. And then I want to wrap things up, talking a little bit of kickball. Couple things just off the top of my head, and I'm getting the hell out of here because I unfortunately have to work because there's a Stanley Cup Finals game today. One, the fucking Ringers run ruling people. And the year 2025, let's go. I'll say this, man. Like, I truly could never imagine being on the Ringers. But I'll say this. It's probably somewhat of a similar feeling that, like, Kevin and Meditha and Sean and Corinne felt last year on my team, like when they went from a team that I think they got run ruled 5 times the year before, got run ruled the Boot Championship, and then we went out and run ruled like 4 or 5 teams. But it's like the Ringers have really been there with their own same group and like kind of the same core, and like they've gone from being the butt of the league to like going out and run ruling people, and that is fucking sick. That is fucking sick. I'm happy for them. That's awesome. It's awesome to see the growth. It's awesome to see them compete. My understanding is, they won the boot last year. They want to compete in the plate. And that's a really good place to start. For those that never watched Brooks' pregame speech, man, holy smokies. I think I posted it in the Facebook group. Holy smokies. My man Brooks gave the fucking great, like, it's no surprise they went out and won the boot. He gave the greatest pregame speech of all time. So that's awesome to see. The other thing I want to talk about is something that, again, I am the greatest, most supreme ball knower, as those who may remember my preseason rankings. LSF beating Invictus Fitness yesterday. And what people don't realize, again, supreme ball knower and gossip knower, LSF plays all the top teams this year, I believe. Maybe not global, but they play all the other ones. LSF gets to play Johnny's without Zach. And I won't pretend that Zach is to attribute all of Johnny's success. He's not. But what he does do is, like, in general, a team has a good triangle, it means you need to kick away. If a team has a good outfield, if not a good triangle, it means you need to bunt. Johnny's has the best triangle in the league. That's not even up for debate. It's not up for debate. Shane, Michael, Carey, best triangle in the league, not close. But having Zach in center field means you now have absolutely nowhere to kick the ball with any margin of error. And I'm not going to sit here and say that I think LSF will beat Johnny's without Zach. I don't. My initial thought is no, I do not think so. But I will say, having beat Invictus now makes you at least a favorite to beat all the other teams besides Johnny's. And to me, the big take, I think, is that, like, LSF has as good of an opening as you can get to beat Johnny's. I guess, like, the only other better opening would be as if, like, Michael and Carey both were gone. But getting Johnny's without Zach is a huge opening. One that hurts them a lot on offense. Johnny's has good offense, but Zach helps that offense a lot. And then on defense, man, there's going to be places to put that ball. And so I think no one's going to talk about it. Now they will talk about it because the Supreme Ball Knower me talked about it. But LSF might be a sneaky pick to go 10-0. Do I think they will? No, I do not. I think they have too many people on the team. I think that the ball knowledge is not quite 100% there. I do know the Chin Halls, or at least Aaron, I had conversations with him last week. I know he put in a lot of work, game planning for that game. But I think 10-0 is on the table. And people do remember, LSF beat Johnny's a couple seasons ago. The first year they won the league, LSF beat him. Only team that beat him. And so, yeah, I don't know. Cougar's probably going to have a wet dream thinking of, I mean, I can only imagine what tomorrow night's podcast is going to include. I mean, Cougar's going to be fucking stroking his meat to LSF being back. But, yeah, I don't know. It's something to think about because I do think LSF now probably favored to be the 2 seed. a team that I don't think anyone had them inside the top four. Maybe me. Maybe the Supreme Ball. No, I can't remember if I had them there, but I did think they would be Post House week 1. So I think I might have had LSF at 4. I can't remember, but yeah, I don't know. There's something to think about. LSF, sneaky pick there. But yeah, that's really all I have. My only other real take was going to be, I really just think people need to be more understanding. And I do think this league is, oh, what's my alarm going off? This league is filled with the most nice and inclusive group of folk out there. So I don't think we have any inclusivity problems by any means, but I do think that with inclusivity comes with understanding. And I think that there's actually a massive misunderstanding of people in this league by all parties, and it's some of the nicest people in this league would still I would say misunderstand people, and everyone's different. Everyone grew up obviously a majority of us probably grew up in Kansas, or even more specific northeastern Kansas, Lawrence, Kansas City area, but it's a lot of people from other areas, and everybody handles things differently, and obviously some people handle things wrong. You can handle something wrong. But I think a lot of people miss that, everybody's different. Some people are going to, respond differently to things. And it's people need to take a step back before judging, would be my take. And I think that the more people that took a step back, I think it would help everybody. I think it'd help you understand people more. I think it'd help you like people more, and help you maybe get yourself out of shitty situations more. So that is really all I have. I appreciate everybody for listening to the solo episode. I know we spent a lot of time talking about Game of the Week. Man, I can't wait for Marcus to post. Obviously, if you want to watch the Twitch feed, it is up at twitch.tv/kvklLFK, but that Marcus broadcast will probably give the best shots. I highly doubt Marcus is ever going to publicly post the unedited version of that girl's crash out, but nonetheless, wishing her the best in her recovery, hoping Willis and Matt are okay, wishing Ian the best as well. So, Godspeed, manifest, everybody, and best of luck playing kickball. Hope you don't have to play my team soon.